Hi everybody, welcome to Embracing Aging. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about relationships with our grown-up offspring. And this was sparked by a comment on one of my previous videos where I encouraged keeping channels of communication open. Particularly if you've had a fallout, just kind of check in with people now and again and just say hello, how are you? I was thinking about you, whatever. And I do think it's important. However, I also recognise that sometimes you don't always get back what you want or what you hope for, and sometimes I think maybe we just need to let go of that kind of expectation of getting any or getting the resolution that we want. They may say thanks, yeah, I'm fine, but nothing more than that. But at least channels of communication are still open. So I think that an important thing is sort of letting go of expectations. We maybe like email them or message them, whatever, however we communicate now, phone them, with an expectation that's of a certain response that we don't necessarily get. And it's hard. It is hard. And I think sometimes we just have to let it go. And I think this is particularly with regard to male offspring. And I'm just speaking from my own experience, because I have a grown-up son. But I've also got friends who've got grown-up sons, and they do seem to have a closer relationship. The people who have got daughters seem to have a closer relationship with the family, and I think it's a natural way of things, and it might not be a fashionable thing to say, but I do think that often the boys gravitate towards their partners, family, and I think that's exactly the way it should be. They become the alpha male in their own environment, and I think the two males together, and two females actually, but I'll talk about that later. But two males together are going to clash, like the deer. There's always or lions or whatever. The young males always challenge the older guys. They want to, they're the alpha male. They want to move on and do their own thing, and I think it's very hard to accept that, especially for men. I think I see it with my husband that he's so used to being the one who's my son would go to for advice and guidance and what have you. Now he's doing the same for his kids, and he's an alpha male. And I think it's really, that relationship is really challenging. They do love each other, but they don't always show that. And I certainly, I don't feel that my husband always sees that. So if you've got grown-up male kids who moved on and they've got their own families, I think that's the only way I can see. I think that's the way it's meant to be. They are going to be the ones who are, they're going to be the alpha male like you were. And I think you just have to realize, the world's changing, and they're working in their own environment, you're working in yours, and we have to just take a back seat and let them lead the way. We have to start following them, I think, and just look at them, because you know what? I've said before, we can learn so much from younger people. I love the way my son, I love the way he deals with people. He's a lot more, we were brought up to be polite. My son isn't always polite, and sometimes it makes me cringe a little bit sometimes. But I do think that he's, we've learnt to be more assertive because of looking at him. So, yeah, I'm just thinking, if you're dealing with male offspring particularly, they are, just seems to be the way that they do move on, and you have less contact with them. I think girls that may be more closer to the families and the nurturers and what have you. And again, I know it isn't politically correct probably for me to say that, but that is the way I see it. I just think that females, we have this kind of, not everybody, but most of the people I know anyway, we kind of got that nurturing kind of loving motherly instinct, whether or not we're mothers or not. I think we still have that kind of caring and thing, whereas the men go out and they earn the money and they, they're kind of the boss. And like, I don't know if you've seen that the Greek wedding where she says her husband's the head of the family, but she's the neck and she tells him which way to turn. I love that. So yeah, I'm just thinking that to me that's a natural way of things, that the guys move on and they start family of their own, and or not, but they, they're in their own environment and they want to be the alpha male, and that's the way it should be. And yeah, and I just think that all you can do is keep the channels of communication open and don't have an expectation of an outcome. Maybe they don't want to see you for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't have time. And I do think that we all want to be needed. And I think that if our kids, like, if they only contact us because they need a favour, let's do it if we can. Because then, you know what? We've got something that they need. And that's what we want, really. We want to be needed, don't we? So yeah, I don't give up on them because you don't hear from them like all the time. Just be glad that they're leading their own lives and they're happy, and they will contact you when they need something or they need your advice. So I would say don't be too hung up on an expectation of a certain response or a way of being with you. I know you've done a good job, actually. If your kids are independent and they're going off and doing their own thing, you've done a good job, actually. So yeah, that's what I've got to say today, and I'll talk to you again soon.